In several other podcasts, we have talked about the technique we use to brainstorm, right? We've talked about the concept of defining what it is you're brainstorming. Then we talked about the idea of building a decision tree in your head. Then we talked about using drivers, left side thinking, not right side thinking. If you're using right side thinking, it's easy to see and you're going to fail the brainstorming easily. And we also explained the importance of brainstorming. If you know how to brainstorm, do you know how much time in your life you'll save because you will never have to memorize a framework again? So think about that for a second. If you can brainstorm structures from first principles, you will never have to memorize a framework again. And that's what bothers me when I see people, you read books like Case in Points and hundreds of other books out there. People just believe that, you know what, I need to brainstorm these things. And you don't have to do that. They think they need to memorize the frameworks and then just throw it out in a case. And there's a couple of problems that, firstly, if you're memorizing a framework, you don't actually know how to think, right? Let's be honest. If you're memorizing a framework, you don't know how to solve everything from first principles. And I've yet to see someone who, even if they could memorize the framework, introduce it in some eloquent way which looks as if they understand how to use the framework. Most people botch it up because when they introduce the framework, it's very clear that they're just throwing this framework in. They don't know how to use it, but they know that this particular case needs this kind of framework, and no interviewer wants to see that. So clearly, knowing how to brainstorm is just such an important point. So I want to give you a very clever tip to think about when you're brainstorming, right? When you are brainstorming, always ask yourself, what is the definition of the concept you are brainstorming? What is its meaning, right? Let me give you an example. We do a case whereby, quite a tough one, where we say brainstorm what drives variable cost in an investment bank, but assume this investment bank is more like a corporate bank in the sense that their single product is the fact that they offer multi-billion-dollar loans to Fortune 500 companies. So the question is, brainstorm what would drive variable costs. And I'll tell you what most candidates do. Most candidates know variable cost is made up of 5 or 6 things. They'll throw it up, which is right brain thinking, throwing up ideas. And then they'll say, okay, these 4 things seem to be related to a bank, so it's these 4 things. That's the wrong way to do it. The right way to do it is to define variable cost. Variable cost is cost that fluctuates as the unit volume of production of your output fluctuates. Then you've got to ask yourself, what is the output of this bank? Well, the outputs are the loans that it offers. Then you've got to ask yourself, as the number of loans go up, what is driven by that? Well, what is driven by that? I'll tell you first thing is that you need more people to sort of sell, in inverted commas, those loans. You need a larger back office to process those loans. You probably need greater IT infrastructure to manage the loan volume. And you probably need a larger risk management department to process the loans as well, right? So that is left to right thinking. Start with the definition. We worked out what variable cost is. We then said within a bank, variable costs, within this bank, variable costs is related to the number of loans processed. And then we asked ourselves, okay, we are looking at what will change as the number of loans issued changes. So we spent a lot of time up here defining the definition of variable costs. It had to do everything to do with the number of loans being issued. And then it became a very simple process for us to actually determine what costs are driven by the number of loans issued. And what many people will do is that they'll do right brain thinking. They'll just throw out variable cost buckets and try to see what makes sense. Now, you may guess the answer here because most people know what comprises variable cost. But again, you're not learning how to think. And you're setting yourself up for failure because even though you'll do give yourself a high five for getting it right, you got it right because you just happen to know the structure for variable costs. In a real case whereby you don't know the structure and you have to brainstorm from first principles, which is look at the definition, build a decision tree in your head, and then work with drivers, you will not be able to do it. So the most important tip when working with brainstorming is look at the definition of what it is you are brainstorming. There are a lot of clues in there, and then work your way out from there.